Today's topic, high income earners trifecta for retirement planning. I'm excited for this one. The goal of this video is to walk you through 3 of our most utilized favorite strategies that we utilize with our clients. High income households, we work with physicians. Most of our physicians are younger in age, so still very much in those accumulator years. Whether you're a physician, a dentist, an entrepreneur, really anyone with high income, and think of in terms of tax brackets for the benefits of this video, we're probably in the 30, 35, 37% tax bracket. That's where we're going to get the most value out of today's video. With this trifecta, here are the 3 that I want to walk through with you in detail. And when I say detail, we're getting nerdy. I'm going to share my screen on this one. We used to call these our live case study ones, but I want to get in there. I'm going to show you not only talk the talk per se, but I want to show you the why behind it. And we're going to walk through some neat planning through a sample client so you can kind of see why all 3 of these make sense. And you're probably wondering, Chad, what are the 3? Just tell me already. Let me tell you. So 3 main goals for planning in the trifecta are this: pre-tax savings. Think 1K3B. My favorite, the utility player of all time, the Backdoor Roth, followed by one you may have not have heard of, but is possibly one of the largest tax savings we'll actually build into a financial plan, but that's Roth Conversions. And then inside of that, because we just had a fantastic question from one of our YouTube viewers, they actually put our section on YouTube where we actually asked for questions, part of the community per se. And the question was more or less, what the heck is the difference between a Backdoor Roth and a Roth Conversion? Really, they're technically the same thing. It's just there's a little bit of nuances to them, but we're going to get to that as well. I have that one towards the end of my agenda today. So without further ado, again, no more intros. We're just going to get into it, but we're going to take a little breather here. We're going to hit it, and then I will give some more context, and then we'll go to the computer share here, or the screen share, I should say. So that's all coming up next. Okay. So right into it. Pre-tax. Our first goal here is pre-tax. So when we talk through this section, I just want you to keep it simple. This is more or less your 401k, your 403B. If you have a government F&B plan, remember there is a difference between a government, non-government F&B plan. That's actually one of our more popular YouTube videos, so check that one out if you don't know the difference there. But for right now, just assume it's a government F&B plan. That means we don't have to overthink it. So anything pre-tax savings, that's easy. This video will also be geared more towards W-2, right? If you are a 1099 contractor, independent provider, right? There's a lot of other options. So if you think this video is cool now, you probably get at least 2 other easy buckets that we can fill in. So maybe that'll be a separate video. If that's something that's of interest to you, drop that in the comments. But let's just assume that it's W-2. So the first one we want to get into is pre-tax savings and why. So let me share my screen here and we will show this to you live. So let's do this. This is our financial planning software. So Joe and Jane, dual physician households, early 40s, 2 young kids. That's not going to play a huge factor in today's analysis. They live in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Why is that important? Well, 2 things. Pennsylvania does have state income taxes. Oddly enough, Philadelphia also has something called local taxes. I'm born and raised in Pennsylvania, so I've always been accustomed to local taxes, but a lot of others don't have local taxes. Oddly enough, Philadelphia's local tax is actually higher than the state tax, but that's important because this is a video on taxes. But still, it plays in well with everything else. Income. So what's high income for this analysis? About $700,000. So between the 2 of them, they have about $700,000 per year in annual income, puts them right around the 35% marginal bracket. Net worth is about $1.5 million. It's a very typical client that joins us. Really high income, net worth is beautiful, but really growing. We're kind of at that like turning point on the hockey stick, right? We're just starting to turn up when a lot of clients join us, whether that's just income jumping up, finally getting student loans out of the way, but we're really starting that accumulation phase and really starting to build up assets. So keep that in context here when you're looking at this. Now, what you see here is just my tax chart. This is the one thing that I look at here whenever we want to see, well, where are they at today? Taxes. There's this beautiful little gap here, which we're going to get to. And then you start to see taxes go back up. And that's another misconception out there where everyone will say, well, my tax rates will go down in retirement. Maybe. But for many high income earners, not exactly. And that's because ideally you're very good savers. But not only that, what we're about to get in now, pre-tax savings, a lot of that savings is pre-tax. What's the downside to pre-tax savings? Uncle Sam's going to get his share. He's going to come and knocking. Right now, he comes and knocking about 75. Age 75 is when RMDs kick in. We call those required minimum distributions. But this is when you're forced to pull money out. We'll get into this more in Roth Conversions, but let's get back to the main topic here, pre-tax. Why are we so adamant on never leave a pre-tax dollar behind? It's really just a numbers game, right? So if I scoot down here, brought everything back to present value, don't worry about any of these big scary numbers yet. Their plan looks pretty good. So right now their plan has a 91% success rate. So that's a solid plan, really over 75%. We say that's a solid foundation there. Clearly depends on where we are in terms of time, but 91% early 40s. So here's why we like pre-tax. So here, right now, the Smiths effective tax rate, hovering right around really close to their margin. Now, remember, in this analysis, the effective income tax rate's also pulling in their Pennsylvania state tax, which is only around 3%, and Philly, which is actually right around 4%, rounding down a little bit for the state, rounding up a little bit for the city. But regardless, Pennsylvania is a pretty low state income, a low income tax state. So even if you didn't have local taxes, most states are probably above 3%, especially if you're a high income earner. So that's where I kind of like Philly still as a good example here, because if you put the two together, that's a pretty fair analysis for most states, unless you live in the beautiful state of Florida or any other states right now that don't have state income taxes. So right around this 32, 34, 35, marginal rate again around 35. So why is this important? Well, it brings up the point of pre-tax savings, right? What's the whole point of pre-tax savings? Ideally, we are saving more today and paying less later, or my favorite nerdy term, tax arbitrage. So in this example, it says, hey, Joe and Jane are going to put away $1 and save 35 cents. Simple analysis. Now, just to keep it even better for you, if you're maxing out your 401k plan, we're recording this in 2024, current limit is $23,000. Simple math, use 35%. I always use marginal rate for that one. Sometimes we'll have questions on that. My theory is this. Any dollar you put away, it's $1 you're taking off the top, right? So it's technically your highest. Yes, your effective rate is lower, like your federal effective tax rate is going to be lower than that marginal 35. But still, we're taking that dollar off the top, which would be your highest number. So if you said, hey, if I put $23,000 away, it saved me 35%, 35 cents in the dollar example here on federal taxes. What's the dollar savings? About $8,000. All right, so let's just say in this example, I didn't share this, but Joe and Jane both maxed out their 401ks, and then they also do an HSA, again, 2024 numbers, already around 8,300 is the max. So if you max out all those, you put about $54,000 pre-tax savings away, you're saving about $20,000 in tax. That's a pretty good benefit. So you're sitting here right now, you're thinking, all right, how much do I really save? That's a good save. Even if you just said $23,000 and the $8,000 per person, that's a great tax savings. This is why tax planning is so boring, so important in the long run, right? We're sitting here now in their young 40s, but we're going to play that out over their entire working careers, into their mid 60s. Every single year, you're getting that savings over and over and over again. And that's why tax planning is somewhat boring when you look at it in one given year, but when you let that compound over many years, many decades, quite fantastic. But still doesn't answer the question. Why is that attractive now compared to down the line? Why am I not doing Roth contributions here? Well, you scoot down here and let's just take a peek. Here's this beautiful gap, right? So you can see tax rates plummet here. Why are they low right here? Well, in this example, no more earned income. And we're not being forced to take money out. Now, I always say their tax rate's probably going to be higher than 6%, right? I highly doubt, I don't know what their income number is here because I'm only going to show the tax chart. I don't want to be flipping screens the entire time. But they probably need to pull something out of their portfolios. And if they have to pull out anything pre-tax, it's going to increase that number. But moral of the story is they will plummet. But look what starts to happen when these RMDs, those little buggers, kick in. All of a sudden, we're pushing back up into 25% tax brackets here. Now, federal, you can see you're even a little bit higher. This is likely picking up on how the 401k is in the state of Pennsylvania, and it's probably picking up on some of those benefits in here. But you can see the marginal bracket is starting to push very close to where we were in our working years. Chad, that's not supposed to happen. This is my point. It does happen. And it does happen because you're saving a lot of pre-tax dollars, and then you get forced to pull them out later with those RMDs. So keep things simple. Why did pre-tax make sense for Joe and Jane Smith? They deferred at 35 cents on the dollar. And when they pulled it out later, they paid 25 cents on the dollar. Tax arbitrage, 10% there, 10 cents on the dollar. That's why, as a high income earner, in most situations, right, we are making so many assumptions. This chart is literally filled with assumptions. We got assumptions on growth rates, tax rates, inflation, all of that's built into this. This is a very simple view, but all of it's built in very neat financial planning software. But still, come back to what we know today. And this even includes the tax sunset in 2025, where tax rates actually go back up again. So pre-tax makes a lot of sense here because deferring had 35, paying 25 later. I'm actually going to try to lower that 25 with Roth conversions here. So number one on the list, pre-tax. What I want to get to next is not going to show you anything tax-based, but I want to go through backdoor Roth IRAs. The backdoor Roth IRA is extremely neat because it doesn't waste any taxable benefits. What do I mean by that? When you do a backdoor Roth IRA, you're not wasting any pre-tax dollars. I just emphasized how important pre-tax dollars are. Backdoor Roth IRA does not waste any of them, right? You're going in the year 2024 again, you're going to make a $7,000 contribution to a non-deductible IRA. Non-deductible. Your income was too high. The only reason why we have to do this silly thing called a backdoor Roth and we can't just go directly to the Roth is because your income is too high. But you can still put that money towards an IRA. It's called a non-deductible contribution. And then eventually we can convert it to your Roth IRA. That's all it is. That's the backdoor Roth IRA. That little move from IRA to Roth IRA is the backdoor Roth. And we love this strategy because it didn't waste anything pre-tax. Like I said earlier, tax planning in a given year is not that sexy. But when you do it year after year after year after year, those numbers can get very attractive. So let's just get in here and let's just check assets, right? So let's do balance sheet. Okay, so here's what I want to visually show you. Let's just check out the Roth IRAs. So Jane's at about 57, Joe's at about 67. Now, from this point forward, all we're doing is the backdoor Roth every single year. Probably have about a 7% growth rate plugged in. So doing those like clockwork, again, not a huge number this year, but you do it year after year, you get some market growth in there. Like I said, we're plugging in probably right around 7%, assuming a higher stock allocation because Roth IRAs usually will sit in the back burner, the last account that we're going to go to. So I kind of gave away my big pitch there, but what do you think they would get to around retirement age? Well, you know the answer because I just showed you, but they have $1 million now. You know, between the both of them, just shy of $1 million in after-tax assets, Roth assets. What's the beauty of the Roth asset? It's already been taxed, right? Uncle Sam already got his cut. And that is a really good tool to have in your bag, especially when we get into even more nerdy tax planning. This is where you can try to stay below brackets. This is where you can avoid IRMA, which is a surcharge that can come in for when you get into Medicare planning. You know, a lot of our clients, again, 40s, 30s, maybe young 50s in there as well. So we're not getting too crazy with Medicare planning yet, but I can tell you, I'm thinking about all this. We're thinking about that. So that is the beauty of the backdoor Roth IRA. Now, building and adding context to that, where is this going to be in terms of Roth conversions? And I'm going to do a bigger example on Roth conversions next. Really, you'd argue that a backdoor Roth is a Roth conversion. Not argue, it is, right? You're going to take money from an IRA, pre-tax though, convert it to a Roth. Backdoor Roth IRA, for the most part, tax neutral, right? If you put in $7,000 and there was no growth at all, there wasn't even interest on the money market account that it sat in, it's tax neutral, right? 7,000 in, 7,000 over. What's the difference between a Roth conversion? Roth conversion, you're doing the same thing, but here's the difference. Roth conversion is based on pre-tax assets. So that IRA is not a non-deductible IRA. It's fully taxable. So let's just play hypothetical. We play that same 7,000 over. So Roth conversion this time, $7,000 from your IRA, convert it to your Roth IRA. That $7,000 is taxable, right? You're going to get that 1099 that says you owe $7,000 in ordinary income tax. That is the big difference between a backdoor Roth and a Roth conversion. Technically, both Roth conversions, different tax plays, right? So I wanted to add context to that. I do very much appreciate that question and also the note in our community there in the Wealth Keel YouTube channel. So let's keep building on that though. Roth conversions here. I'm going to come back to sharing my screen. Okay, so here's the current situation. So the one thing I'm looking for here is this beautiful area. So what is this gap being caused from? Income has stopped. RMDs, required minimum distributions, have not started yet. So you have this beautiful little tax planning area here. And you sit there and you say, well, how can we optimize this, right? How do we optimize these years? Because I love Roth conversion years because when we're doing Roth conversions, it's in the given year. We know the tax code in that given year. That's the best part about Roth conversion. Now, we don't know what the future looks like. We're in an election year as I'm recording this. I hate all politics. Regardless, I don't think many of you are going to sit there and say, I think tax rates are going to go a lot lower in the future. Again, it doesn't matter what political affiliation you are. I don't think many of us will ever say that. Most likely, let's just say they stay the same. If they stay the same, fine. This is all a moot point. Doesn't matter whether you do pre-tax or Roth. If tax rates stay the same, we're all equal in the end. If tax rates go up, Roth gets even more beneficial. So in this example here, we're trying to figure out a way. Maybe you've heard this term before, but filling up a tax bracket. We're trying to fill in these brackets to lower these brackets. And how do we do that? Remember, these are being forced. RMDs are based on your year-end balance of pre-tax assets. So let's just say you've retired, all the 401k dollars, they move into an IRA. You got to pull that money out, right? It starts around 3.6% and will increase slowly every single year. So how do we do that? Well, we do that with Roth conversions. So let me show you this neat little trick here. And this is part 3. Part 3 here is Roth conversions. So we can then simulate this. We can say, all right, let's do 100,000. So in this example, Joe and Jane, between certain years where their income is lower. So for Joe and Jane, it's 2046 to 2055. Those right now look like they're good years to do these conversions. So we are going to convert $100,000 every year from their pre-tax assets to their Roth. So we're purposely adding $100,000 of income in these given years. Now, when you go to do these, there's a lot of moving parts to it. You want to watch your tax brackets. You want to watch your capital gains brackets. You want to watch your IRMAs. Again, IRMA comes back to Medicare planning. There's a lot of moving parts in there. So it's not just as simple as like, well, let's just pull a number out of a hat. You do want to track all this, but this is just to show you the power of these Roth conversions. So now we did this. Now, the first thing you should be super excited about, and this is why I tell everyone, this is one of the largest tax savings that can play out for most of our clients. It's saying right now by doing that, the actual cumulative tax bill, the total tax bill, went down by $840,000. Let's see what it looks like visually. Remember those 6% tax rates, right? We retired here at 65. All of a sudden, they snuck up a little bit. That's good. We wanted to do that. Perfect. And look what happened here. These snuck down a little bit, not by much, nothing crazy. These were right around 23, 24, and they're a little bit lower here. Now they start to tick back up down the line. I didn't scroll down too much before we plugged in the tax play, but it's common for them to continue to creep up because remember, RMDs go up, right? So that continues to go up. But all of a sudden, we moved more pre-tax dollars into those lower brackets while still staying pretty low. You can see their marginal bracket's still 15. I'm going to show you another cool report here in 1 second. But that's exactly why a Roth conversion is so powerful. Now, what's the thing you got to keep in mind here? You got to have money ready to deploy, right? If I move over $100,000, and let's just say that this marginal bracket is the base we got here, and you got $100,000 in there, we just created a tax bill of $15,000, right? Have the cash on hand to pay that tax bill. You don't want to pull that from assets. You don't want to, on the Roth conversion, just withhold some. Don't that kind of start to play in on the compounding interest. So the main thing we look for here with our clients is when we start to do this in a given year is that they have that cash ready to go to actually pay their tax bill. All right. And then another neat thing here, I'm going to start to wind this down here. There's another way we can run this report, and it just says, hey, instead of a dollar amount, fill in the entire 24% tax bracket. Now, remember, the last one I just showed you, we went the whole way to 15. So this is actually going to be a pretty substantial jump. So you can see now it's a much larger conversion. We pretty much are creating now an extra $100,000 in a tax bill. You could be thinking that seems like a lot. Now, the plan, oddly enough, didn't love it a ton. It pulled it back a little bit, but still huge tax savings here. A $2 million tax savings here. It pulls back that probability of success by a little bit in there, not by much. That's pretty common stuff, but still a large tax savings. And we scoot down here, retirement. So you can see here, it's actually moving them into this marginal bracket of about 28 now, and then effective is closer to 25. When we usually do these, it depends on the client's comfort level. That's the most important part, is probably looking around 20% or lower. You start to get into this on paper. 25 has always kind of been this like conversation point on before 25, it's Roth, after 25, it's pre-tax. So we're kind of flirting with that, but it's more or less an opportunity to show you if you crank that up a lot in those lower years, now look what happened. These things plummet. Now, in this example, we probably are having big issues with IRMA. Some clients don't mind that because IRMA resets every year. We probably are having some capital gains issues at this point. We're probably pushing into those higher brackets. So there's a lot more complicated parts here, but it's kind of neat to show you that we can fill that backwards. But if we scoot back here, we come back to this, I even ran a 50K, 100 grand, it is a large, substantial tax savings. In this example, the plan didn't change at all. So it still stayed at a nice 91%, about 800,000 and change in tax savings, but just smoothing out those tax brackets. And the truth probably lies somewhere in the middle there. It's probably not as low as what we built in here, that 100,000, probably not as high as what was shown on the other one, but really neat strategy. One of our favorites. This is one that we usually do this later in the year for a lot of our clients. Depending on the amount, we might try to split it in a given year. One of my favorite strategies for a lot of reasons, but the planning that comes with it just gets me really hyped up and excited to get into this. So that's part 3. Trifecta, you're watching this, a high income earner. What's our trifecta again? Really prioritizing those pre-tax dollars in our accumulation years. In those higher tax bracket years, pre-tax dollars are important. Don't forget about the Backdoor Roth IRA. One of our favorite tools, probably one of the things we talk most about in our content consistently, something that's missed by so many, but it's so easy to do. And again, not super sexy in a given year, but let it compound over many years. As you just saw there, we went from $100,000 to $1 million, and they were starting them relatively late in their early 40s. Simple, but powerful in the long run. And then the third part of our trifecta is once we build up all these pre-tax assets in our accumulator years, how do we make sure we control our tax scenario as much as possible? Roth conversions are really neat. It's a little added spice in there between what's the difference between a backdoor Roth and a Roth conversion. So I hope you enjoyed this. I love these case study ones. I love sharing my screen. I think it just kind of shows you what we do behind the scenes. But for some of you that are watching this, maybe as a DIYer and you've heard this, but you never saw it really played out, I hope this is extremely helpful. If you have questions, comments, you want to see more details on something that you saw here or want to see something new, please let me know. Again, if you're more of a 1099 entrepreneur based and you're thinking, well, how can this play out for us? If that's a video you'd like to see, let me know. That'd be a neat one to build as well. As always, thanks for hanging out with me. Usually 15 minutes. This one might be a little bit longer because I get excited about this topic, but thank you for hanging out with me. If you have not subscribed, now's a great time to subscribe to the channel. Sending new videos out on a weekly basis now. And then also in our comments, not only the comments, but in our show notes, you can also send us a specific note through our Google form if you just wanted to send something more personalized as opposed to drop it in the comments. So hopefully you got everything covered there. Again, thanks for hanging out with me. As always, catch you on the next one.